Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we're doing a twofer. We're looking at the NECA Predator Jungle Hunter Masked prototype version and the Unmasked Jungle Hunter. These are part of the 30th anniversary wave, and I just finally got around to getting them, so I figured we'd go ahead and take a look. But they are mostly the same figure, so that's why we're going to do them all at once. They're even more the same figure than most of the other Predators are. So let's go ahead and get these guys off the stand so that we can take a closer look. These guys stand roughly 20.5 centimeters to the top of the head, which makes them just over 8 inches, and they are basically the same size, even though the heads are a little bit different. You can see that's not really going to change too much. So yeah, as far as the bodies go, the only difference is the helmet, the head. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at those real quick before we move on. This is obviously the prototype mask, which is a unique look. It's somewhat reminiscent of the Celtic Predator and a little bit of the Falconer. Is it Falconer? I think that's what it's called. That's what it reminds me of, but it does look kind of cool. It's definitely unique. It's nicely done, so that's good. The only real problem I have for this, and this is kind of a problem for both figures everywhere else except for the head, is this, I guess, plasma scarring or whatever it is that you want to call it. It just doesn't look good. It looks like a little flower tattoo or something like that, so that's kind of a bummer. But that's the one head sculpt. That's the masked prototype, obviously. And then for the other one, we have the unmasked version, which is always a treat because they just have so much detail packed into these. Yes, this one is just the tiniest bit googly-eyed, but there's so much detail in the mouth. You can even see some striations in color for veins inside the mandible. Very, very nicely done. So that's going to be your main difference between these two figures. And then the other difference just comes in the accessories. The unmasked Predator comes with the skull and spinal column. That's just normal bone colored. And then it comes with a gripping hand to hold it. Its normal hands are just the open style pose hands. And then the masked Predator comes with the same spinal column and skull, but this time it's painted pinkish red, so it looks like it's bloody. And he only comes with a fist hand and the gripping hand, no alternate hand. And that's it for the accessories, so there's not much to talk about, not much to compare. So as you can see, we don't need to look at the figures independently anymore. They have the exact same everything else. So we're just going to look at this guy real quick and run through it. So the little gun thingy up here, I guess you could technically count this whole thing as an accessory, but they almost always have that, and it's pretty much supposed to be on his back, so you'll just leave it there. We have a little hinge that lets the gun move forward and back, and then it's on a ball peg at the top. That's about it. The head, some of these guys are on double ball pegs, some are on single ball pegs with just a straight peg to hold it in place. It's hard to move them around anyway. Yes, the dreads are flexible, but it's pretty limited. So just be aware that you're not going to move them a ton. And this guy is particularly tight. I don't know what the deal is, but you can generally pose the head well enough since he doesn't need to be in the most dynamic of poses anyway. It does look up and down a little bit, definitely side to side, but going that way is difficult due to the backpack. So you're going to want to pose him that way for the most part. For the shoulder, we do have two burrs connecting the chest piece to the shoulder pad, and then this part, which is still part of the shoulder pad, to this arm. So you're going to have to be careful, but this piece is pretty flexible, and it's connected down here. So it will kind of just squish if you want to raise the arm, and it's not too bad. You get some range out of it, considering how cluttered that is. You do have a bicep swivel underneath that, but as you can see, if you use it, you're going to stretch that tuber and possibly pop off the backpack. So be aware of that. Full rotation, technically, but again, that tuber is... it's definitely going to limit you. You do have a double jointed elbow, which works pretty well, except it's very stiff to get it to move the second joint. Also, this tuber is going to be very, very precarious. Be careful with that. This arm is totally unencumbered, just a little tiny shoulder pad up here, which won't be a problem. Both arms have gauntlets and they can rotate, so that's pretty cool. This one has the detonator pad, which is painted properly, so that's a nice feature. And this one has the sliding claws, which can extend, so that's a nice feature. And then of course the hands are just connected on ball pegs with minimal range, but it's probably enough. Now they do have at least a single jointed ball peg, or a single ball peg for the diaphragm joint. This one's totally frozen, so I can't tell you for sure. Let's take a look at this one. It feels to me like it's a double, but it could be just a well-executed single. Regardless, you don't get that much range out of it. I mean, it moves around forward and back, side to side, full rotation, but it's pretty limited. And then for the lower torso, again, it feels like a single peg, but it might be a ball peg. Or it feels like a straight peg, but it might be a ball peg, because you do get a little bit of play out of it. but it's mostly just going to be your rotation. You do have these necklaces that are on here, which are plastic with glued ropes, so they are somewhat soft goods, and they move around. They're free. You can technically take them off if you want to. Both of these guys seem to have their necklace on backwards, which isn't a big deal. I mean, you can just pull it off around the head and reorient it, but I think that's interesting that both of them seem to be hanging the wrong way. Now, as far as the hips go, we've seen this before. The skirt piece is soft material glued on in the back, and in the front it's just kind of flexible plastic. These guys are definitely flexible and they'll get out of the way. So you can use your ball hinge hips to bring the legs out almost into the splits, which is pretty good. And then of course you have the full rotation going forward and back. This particular crotch piece is somewhat more limiting than most of the not most, but then some of the other Predators. So you're not going to get the legs too far forward. Be aware of that. And then we still have loose hips going forward and back. I really, really need NECA to fix this. I mean, it's pretty much the only continuous problem with these guys. Otherwise, they're pretty solid figures. You do get a thigh swivel, no problem there. Double jointed knees, standard hinges, no rotation anywhere, which is fine. That's fine, no problem at all, good range. And then lastly for the ankles, just a single ball peg with just enough range to help them stand in some poses. So yeah, these guys aren't particularly impressive. You're probably only going to be picking these guys up if you're trying to get into the line and these are readily available. And I think they're okay for that. They're not the best example of what NECA's put out, but they're not bad. And if you already are into the line, then these guys aren't going to be impressive, but you're probably going to pick them up anyway so that you have these versions. So yeah, I mean, they are what they're supposed to be. They're not surprising in any way. They're very just run-of-the-mill Predators. So you guys pretty much know what you're getting into either way. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I have new videos up every single day. We talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you come back for that. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. And in the meantime, keep collecting.